My name is Eleanor Brooks, and at 68 years old, I've learned that motherhood is a strange journey, one where your heart grows heavier and softer at the same time, where your memories live louder than the present, and where the children you once held in your arms often forget the sacrifices you buried in silence. I never imagined that my own daughter, Claire, would one day look me in the eyes and tell me to stop interfering in her life, especially when every piece of wisdom I offered came from decades of love, loss, and lessons I had collected like fragile seashells along the shore of time. Claire had always been my brightest light born after years of failed pregnancies, surgeries, prayers whispered into cold hospital rooms, and one promise I made to myself when I first held her, that I would protect her with everything I had, even at the cost of my own peace. But what she never knew, what I hid for 40 long years, was that her existence itself was a miracle wrapped in a secret so painful I had locked it away in the quietest corner of my heart, hoping it would never need to be opened again. Our troubles began earlier this year when Claire married Ethan, a man I never fully trusted because his smile never quite reached his eyes and his words were always coated with a strange sweetness that tasted like deception. They moved into their new home, and slowly, Claire started pulling away, missing our weekly lunches, ignoring my calls, and rolling her eyes whenever I reminded her to slow down, to rest, to take care of herself, because she had the same heart condition I once fought with every ounce of strength I possessed. One evening, after she came over looking tired, pale, and strangely irritable, she finally snapped and told me, "Mom, stop interfering. I'm not a child anymore." Her words sliced through me, but I simply nodded, swallowing the ache rising in my throat, telling myself I had raised her to be strong even if that strength was now turned against me. Days passed, then weeks, until one night, nearly midnight, my phone rang. It was Claire, her voice trembling, fractured, broken in a way I had not heard since she was a little girl afraid of thunderstorms. "Mom, please, I need you," she whispered, and before I could respond, the line went dead. I threw on my coat, grabbed my keys, and drove faster than a woman my age should ever drive, praying the whole way that whatever had frightened her could be undone. When I arrived at her house, I found her sitting on the kitchen floor, her hair messy, her breathing shaky, her hands clasped over her chest. Ethan was nowhere in sight. Between gasps, she told me she had collapsed earlier in the evening, her chest tightening so violently that she couldn't stand, couldn't breathe, couldn't call anyone except me. And in that moment, the secret I had kept for 4 decades pressed so hard against my ribs, I could no longer hold it back. You see, when I was 28, I had been diagnosed with a rare genetic heart disorder, one that doctors said would make pregnancy dangerous, possibly fatal. But I wanted a child, desperately, and after losing 2 pregnancies in nearly my life, they told me I would never carry a baby to term. The decision I made next was something I never told anyone, not even Claire's father, who left shortly after her birth when he couldn't handle the fear of losing either of us. I found a specialist in another state, a man working quietly on a risky, experimental treatment that had saved only a handful of lives. I signed every waiver, accepted every risk, and endured months of procedures, shots, and surgeries that left scars I carefully hid beneath clothing and silence. I survived, and the treatment worked just long enough for me to carry Claire. She was born premature, tiny enough to fit in one hand, her heartbeat so faint they prepared me for the worst. But she lived. And from the moment I saw her, I vowed to protect her from the truth that she had inherited the same disorder, that her life would always require caution, that stress, exhaustion, or neglect could be deadly. As she grew older, the signs appeared: small fainting spells, irregular rhythms, sudden fatigue, but I managed them quietly, privately, guiding her gently without ever revealing why. When she turned 18, I hid the last medical report, choosing instead to let her believe she was perfectly healthy because I wanted her to live freely, not burdened by fear as I was. And so, when she sat trembling on her kitchen floor, apologizing, sobbing, clutching her chest, I finally told her everything: the treatments, the risks, the nights I spent in hospitals praying she would survive, the reason I had always watched her so closely, and why my interference was never control, only love wrapped in desperation. Claire cried harder, collapsing against me like she used to when she was little. She whispered how Ethan had been pushing her relentlessly long hours, heavy responsibilities, emotional stress she never told me about, and how she had been hiding her symptoms because she didn't want me to say "I told you so." I held her as she shook, telling her she didn't need to apologize because children can resent what they don't understand, and parents often love more silently than they should. The next morning, I took her to the cardiologist, the same hospital where she was born in, after several tests. The doctor gently confirmed what I already feared. Claire's condition had progressed, and she needed treatment immediately. When Ethan finally arrived at the hospital, annoyed that she had overreacted again, Claire looked at him in a way I had never seen before, clear, steady, awakened. She told him she needed time away from him, from stress, from everything that was pushing her toward danger. And for once, she didn't look to him for approval. She looked at me. Over the next weeks, Claire stayed with me while she underwent treatment, often holding my hand, asking me about things I had never shared, what it was like being young and afraid, how it felt to choose motherhood over my own life, how many nights I had stayed awake listening to her breathe just to be sure she was still there. And in those conversations, something unexpected happened. The distance between us dissolved, replaced by a closeness we hadn't felt in years. One evening, sitting on the porch with a warm blanket around her shoulders, she said softly, "Mom, I didn't know. I didn't know you saved me before I was even born." I smiled, brushing her hair behind her ear like I used to. "You didn't need to know," I said. "You just needed to live." But Claire shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I need to know now. I need to understand why you worry, why you guide me, why you love the way you do." And for the first time in 40 years, I felt the weight of my secret lift, replaced by something lighter, something healing. Today, Claire is recovering beautifully. She's made choices that honor her health, her peace, her future. She left Ethan after discovering messages that confirmed my suspicions. He had been manipulating her financially and emotionally, pushing her to exhaustion so he could take control of her assets. She told me she finally saw what I saw years ago. And me? I've learned that sometimes children must break a little before they understand who has been holding them together. Claire visits me every morning now, and sometimes, when she thinks I'm not looking, she watches me with the same protective worry I once reserved only for her. "Mom," she told me yesterday, "you didn't interfere. You saved me twice." And as I looked at her alive, healing, stronger than ever, I realized the truth. Love is not in the secrets we keep, but in the ones we finally share. And after 40 long years, my daughter finally understood the secret I had carried in the deepest part of my heart. Not to burden her, not to frighten her, but to give her the life she deserved.